So, Kyle, anywhere you want to start off in particular?
Well, I guess there's only one place to start. Obviously, following the Chelsea Spurs game.
Yeah, good choice.
Big game for both squads, obviously. Chelsea were looking to fight back into that Champions League spot. Spurs obviously ended up solidifying their place in fourth. Just a big game.
Was a big game and some good predictions. I've got to say, I know you don't like to blow your own horn, but some good predictions last week. I'm sure everyone will have checked them out. If not, please feel free to do so.
Can we please talk about Eriksen?
Let's go for it. Go for it.
An absolutely just an absolute wonder strike from him on the stroke of half time. I thought Chelsea were a better team in that first half. They pressed Spurs very well. I thought they were good money going 1-0 up. Spurs didn't really create too much going forward. Very nice pass in the first half. Eriksen that shot from nowhere really just changed the game. Going into the second half, there was just this feeling that Spurs were back into it, and I think what was scary for Chelsea is that they find themselves in fifth place now. There seems to be a bit of a gap appearing with the 4 teams in front of them. I don't think they envisioned that at the start of the season.
No, I think you're right. I think the one thing that it's been a bit of a theme just on Spurs first in the media in the past couple of days has been it's been framed as a bit of a watershed moment for Spurs. And I know Lloris has come out, not so much come out, but Lloris has been quoted as saying that they're on the brink of something fantastic and something massive. Do you feel as though that's the case? Because it seems as though they were just clinical above all against Chelsea at the weekend. Do you feel as though this is a turning point for Spurs, and without Harry Kane, without the talisman, being able to go and pull out a result against a beleaguered Chelsea side, but it's still a big Chelsea team, they're still champions. Do you feel as though that's they've turned a corner now, Spurs?
Yeah, definitely, particularly in that second half. They came out, they absolutely ran Chelsea rugged in that second half. Chelsea didn't get near them. A 3-1 result away at Stamford Bridge as well, that must be said. It's the first time that Spurs have really gone away under this Pochettino reign and really, really looked comfortable against an established top team at their ground. And it's quite ominous for Chelsea, really. They seem to be going through these phases where they're remarkably successful one season and then not so much the next. And they chop and change the manager, bring in some new personnel. But how long does a model like that really sustain success?
Yeah, good question. I suppose then, the flip side of it then, if things are looking rosy for Spurs, they look like they're on the cusp of something of a renaissance. How do you feel Chelsea are going to be moving? Let's say, fast forward 2 months, fast forward 3 months, let's say we're going to start next season. How do we look in August? How do we look at the end of July when we look at Spurs? Presuming they're going to make some marked improvements if they can keep all of their best players. Where do you see Chelsea going?
Yeah, it's a massive question, isn't it? Obviously, I think when Roman Abramovich came to the squad, came to the club in 2004, his money was a massive factor in establishing Chelsea as one of the top teams. They were able to go out, buy the top players at the time, and really compete against, I guess back then, the Arsenal and Man Uniteds of the world. Football has massively changed now. Champions League in England is a massive thing now for clubs. If you finish in the Champions League, it's a massive thumbs up to players who want to come to the Premier League. We've seen over the last couple of years massive managers, Jurgen Klopp, Mourinho, Guardiola come over. England seems to be the place where people want to come. And if people are going to want to come to England, then they're going to be wanting to play Champions League football. I think Chelsea, it's a massive question is who comes in now. Conte, for all intents and purposes, seems to be walking the line. And I'm not sure Chelsea really have a replacement lined up. You would imagine that over the summer while the World Cup's going on that they're thinking about who they bring in, but they've already gone through some of Europe's best managers over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think the Chelsea fans must be looking at it and thinking, who else do we bring in now?
Yeah, it does. It seems as though there's a bit of a conveyor belt, and Chelsea have been through most of the best managers on the block. I think the standout names that are certainly the ones that are currently not employed by the clubs. You've got Thomas Tuchel, formerly of Borussia Dortmund. You've got Carlo Ancelotti, who already has an asterisk on his record, having had great success at Chelsea, but having left Perhaps not under as much of a cloud as previous managers have. People like Jose Mourinho or Claudio Ranieri, who were departed in slightly more acrimonious circumstances. You've got Luis Enrique, formerly of Barcelona, who everybody's talking about making a journey to the Premier League with either Chelsea or Arsenal. Mm-hmm. Who do you think it will be come August?
Managers are going to be wanting to get the Chelsea job, aren't they? It's a big club, and it's in England. Some of the top managers, some that you've mentioned, obviously Tuchel must be looking at and thinking, where else am I going to go realistically? You know, what's the better gig other than Chelsea? I don't think there is one. You know, let's not forget the success that this club has had in England over, you know, the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, last English side to win the Champions League.
Exactly, and you know that was under a different manager, wasn't it?
Roberto Di Matteo. Di Matteo, yeah, bizarrely.
So you know, they're a club that definitely know how they want to be run. I think it's definitely spearheaded by the owner. Success is non-negotiable, it seems, in these contract talks. And if you don't deliver, not just leagues, but if you also don't deliver European success, it seems as though you're shown the door.
Yeah, I think that's a fair appraisal, fair summation of the managerial recruitment strategy at Chelsea. I really don't know who they're going to get in now. I feel as though Conte has been a tremendous coach. It's less than 12 months since we were lauding Antonio Conte as a tactical genius and a psychological genius for the way that he's galvanised all these Chelsea players who, at the end of Mourinho's ill-fated reign, which I know we made reference to in the last episode, he's turned them into absolute champions. He's lost Diego Costa this season, which I think will probably prove to have been his undoing, not just in terms of points and goals in a quantifiable sense, but also the damage that it's had in from a PR perspective for Chelsea. It didn't look good. Costa coming out, talking about text messages that he's got from Conte, the way that the entire situation was handled, I think riled the Chelsea, not just the backroom staff, I think the staff full stop, the financial staff, the entire board. I think Michael Emenalo leaving at the start of winter, I think that was probably a sign of a bit of the unrest, a bit of the discontent behind the scenes at Chelsea. And I think it's been a really tumultuous relationship between Conte and Chelsea. It's had phenomenal highs insofar as they've won the league, and they won the league with a tactical masterstroke too. It was all highlighted, having lost that game to Arsenal.
Formation,
and then dramatic change in formation, turning David Luiz into one of the best centre backs in the league. Signing N'Golo Kante was a fantastic decision in the end. I think most managers would have made it, but Conte was the one who did it. Conte was the one who brought him to the club. One thing that I would really highlight at the beginning of this season as a sign of Chelsea's waning influence, whether it be under Conte or anyone else, was the fact they missed out on signing Romelu Lukaku. Now, the best striker in the world he isn't, but he was certainly one of the most in demand in the Premier League last season, after the season that he'd had. And Chelsea, with him having already joined them once, looked to be a great destination for him. They were clearly interested, and it became a face-off between United and Chelsea for Lukaku's signature. I feel as though missing out on Lukaku as a main transfer target, regardless of whether or not they'd sign Morata, who, for my money, is quite a good striker. He's not as good as Lukaku, but the point is, Lukaku was their first choice. I think once they missed out on him, as the champions of the Premier League and a Champions League side, that was probably a sign of things to come. And I don't think it bodes well at all for a side that's now looking very likely to miss out on the Champions League and is going to be in a far weaker position in a sense of negotiating. What do you think to that? How do you think that was an indication of how things might be for Chelsea in the coming years?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point you've raised. I mean, back in the summer, who would you have said you would have preferred over Lukaku and Morata?
I'd have said Lukaku every day of the week.
I think everyone would have done. And as you say, for Chelsea to be champions, you would surely think that they should have held most of the cards on that negotiating table.
Yeah. Exciting manager.
How do you appraise Conte's time at Chelsea then?
I think it's really difficult. Do you know what? I always tend to be effusive rather than condemning of managers. I would say Conte's. I think it's been a good reign. I think it's been one amazing season, one not so amazing season, one comparatively poor season, particularly if you set the standard as high as he did in his first. I would say it's been good. I think any manager who wins the Premier League in his first season, that's a hell of an achievement. Who's done that? Jose Mourinho's done it. Goodness me. I can't think of another. Carlo Ancelotti, I think, did it in his first season, won the double.
Yes, that sounds right. Well, Guardiola didn't manage it.
Pep Guardiola, no, he didn't manage to do it. But I mean, that achievement should be isolated itself. To have won the championship in your first season in the Premier League, that to me trumps anything. Bar getting Chelsea relegated in his second season, which he obviously hasn't done. I think that trumps any shortcomings for the season after. The Costa thing to me is the only blot on his copybook.
And that's just the cutthroat nature of Chelsea, isn't it? They cut and change. They want immediate success, but it's almost accepted that they're not going to have this sustained period of dominance.
Yeah,
they're not going to be, a Manchester United of the 90s, early 2000s. They're not going to be one of the Barcelona, Real Madrid type clubs. They're short and sweet. They know what their model is. They come in, they change the personnel, they make a few big signings, and they go for one-off leagues. They don't necessarily truly believe that they can actually defend it for any sustained period of time.
No, it's true. It's true. I would liken it to, it's like a boxer who, let's say somebody like Roberto Duran, or let's say someone like Ricky Hatton, is probably a better example, who is in great shape when he's in the ring. He's in great shape for the fight, but after the fight, he's not in great shape. It's not an issue of longevity, and it doesn't look as though there's ever going to be any sustained legacy over the course of 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. It's that he looks fantastic when he's good. He's really, really good, and he's in great shape. But it doesn't seem to be done with a view to the future. It's very short term. Ricky Hatton will get in fantastic shape for 36 minutes of one evening.
Yeah,
and then would let himself go. And Chelsea, to me, feel the same way. They have one or two fantastic seasons of really, really high intent, short term success with great players and an exciting manager, and the fans are loving it, and there's money being spent, and then it does seem to tail off, and you have a season or two of being this out of shape heavyweight force.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be doomed to repeat. I don't think it's necessarily Abramovich's fault. I don't know if it's a board decision, or if perhaps Chelsea have just been desperately unlucky, but I think everything from the way that they operate with youth players, with the number of players that they're loaning out, it's become a joke. It's a punchline in English football that Chelsea have got enough players on loan to have 3 first-team squads of. I would say it's everything from that to the strange transfer dealings, selling Nemanja Matic, having just won the league and having seen him be an instrumental player in that title success, missing out on Romelu Lukaku. For all the money that Chelsea do spend, they don't really break the bank in the same way that you see Manchester United or Manchester City spending 50 million on defenders, Manchester United spending 90 million on Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
And if Chelsea do want to be a superpower, which you have to assume they do, then the sad reality is that they have to do the same. They have to do the same. Liverpool, 75 million on Virgil van Dijk. They didn't get to third place in the Premier League by just playing nice football. You have to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And I think Chelsea will have to dig deep in their pockets,
yeah,
and they're going to have to make more signings like Alvaro Morata. So they paid through the nose for him, but that can't be a one-off.
Yeah,
it feels really, really mercenary to be singing the praises of financial football nowadays, but it's the way that it's gone. We've reached the point of no return. We've seen signings like Mbappe, he's only on loan now, of course, but he will be going for, let's say, 150, 160 million pounds in the summer.
Minimum.
Neymar. You've got Gareth Bale for the money that he went for. We don't need to touch Ronaldo because Ronaldo's a bit of an edge case. But the point is, you have to pay mad money for players nowadays. So Chelsea will either have to grin and bear it or get used to not finishing in the Champions League spots.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think another side of it is Chelsea are probably looking over their shoulder and seeing Arsenal and thinking, we don't want to go that way.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're fighting with the big guns. And yeah, as you say, the only way you can do that is, given it's World Cup year, there's usually always one star performer, and they usually go for big money, and it's going to be a case of, like you say, just spending 100 mil plus excess on one or maybe two players, and just bolstering that squad in preparation for next season. Because for all intents and purposes, it looks like this domestic season's over now for Chelsea.